that working? Yeah. It's 1:15, so we may as well start. This is Aaron Baker. He's going to be speaking on, you can read it yourselves, the criticality and educational and vocational, the criticality of educational vocational pathways in positive identity formation and post-release success. Thanks everyone, and yeah, just want to finish in 20 minutes and then it'll be ROT and it's done. So concentrate hard, it's your last one.
Microphone's on, yep. I'm not going to repeat it either, it's more than a mouthful. Firstly, I'd like to pay respect to the Ghana and all elders past, present and emerging. Thank you for allowing us here. A big thanks to JRI for organising this beautiful event and also for the bursary. I wouldn't be here today without either. So kick on. Hi everyone, I'm Aaron Baker. Thanks for being here. And please bear with me, it's my first time doing this whole public speaking. I'll be honest, I've battled my fair share of demons in life. Psychosocial disability, historic drug abuse, suicide in the family home at age 13, and other various childhood traumas that we don't delve into. But I'm standing here today with a Bachelor of Commerce in Management and Project Management, double major. Woo! 3.7 GPA and a spot on the Dean's list. As of 2 months ago, I'm now also a published academic in the Journal of Business and Socio-Economic Development, working on a leadership pathway in the mining industry. But here's the real kicker. I earned that degree while behind bars. I've spent half my adult life in prison, but my educational experience has completely transformed my life, and it's why I'm so passionate about what I will share today. Click. So, why should we care what happens behind a prison wall? Because right now, the system is a revolving door. In Australia, nearly half of people released are back in the system within a year. That puts us 15th out of 16 modern countries. We aren't just failing, we're basically at the bottom of the league, the equivalent of Richmond or West Coast in last year's AFL season. On top of that, our prisons in WA and Queensland are bursting at the seams, running at over 130% capacity, causing all sorts of other problems and human rights violations. And if the human cost doesn't move you, the $6.8 billion price tag should. We're spending billions just to watch the same people go through the same door over and over again. That doesn't even count the cost of victims, the strain on police, or the families left picking up the pieces. But we already know the solution. A landmark study from 2013, I think it was, found that people who engage in learning whilst inside have 43% lower odds of reoffending. We already have the cure, we just don't prescribe it. Let's quickly look at how Norway works. Why Norway? Simple. They have the lowest reoffending rates in the world, sitting at around 10%. That makes their system 4 times more effective than ours. But it wasn't always like that. In the 1990s, they had riots and a 70% recidivism rate. That's epic. They changed it by fixing one phrase: prisoners are our future neighbours. They stopped focusing on punishment and started focusing on normality. Inside their prisons, life looks like life on the outside. People wear their own clothes and cook their own meals. They don't lose their humanity, they practice being citizens. They also use, in Norway, what's known as the import model. Instead of prison doctors or prison teachers, they bring in the exact same professionals you'd see at a local clinic or TAFE. This connection to the community works. Employment post-release jumps by 40%. Finally, They've changed the role of guards. They are no longer just turnkey dogs. They are mentors with 2 years of social work training. They eat and play sports with the residents. In Norway, it's not us versus them anymore. Norway proves that you don't create better neighbours through suffering. You create them through empowerment. They treat people like citizens in waiting, not outcasts. This takes me to positive identity. This takes me to positive identity formation. I first learned about the theory behind this from the field of convict criminology from a close friend of mine in prison. Sadly, he's not here today. I watched him take his own life while in prison. But his legacy for me was this idea that lived experience combined with education is the ultimate better way to fix the system. The core of this is identity. When you're incarcerated, the system tells you you're an offender or a prisoner, but convict criminology suggests that to stop the cycle, you need a brand new narrative. You need to stop being a prisoner and start being something else. For me, that something else was being a student. While others were swapping war stories about their crimes, I was building a pro-social space in my cell. My student identity became a hook for change. It gave me self-agency and a narrative of hope that I could actually be a role model for my family. It bridged the gap between who I was and who I wanted to be in society. Now let me give you a look at what studying while behind bars actually looks like. It's not exactly a library and a latte. It was a constant battle against a system that felt designed to make me fail. Universities tell you to spend 10 hours a week per unit. I was allowed 2 units, that's 20 hours per week. But the prison only allowed me 16 hours of computer time each week. And that was on a good week. Whenever there was a staff shortage, which was quite literally almost every week, the education centre was the first thing to close. We used to have a joke that the education centre was the most exclusive club in WA because it was so rarely open. To survive, I went old school. Since I couldn't rely on a screen, I turned my cell into a paper fortress. I printed everything. I must have gone through about 50 reams of paper and 2 full printer cartridges just to have something to read during those lonely lockdown days. While the ACT has had in-cell computers since 2008, in WA, we're still fighting for a consistent policy. But I didn't fight my battle alone. I must have sent about 20 letters to the minister, to the commissioner, just to keep my foot in the door. But the real game changer for me was a bridge to the outside. Dr. Richard Hughes and the team at Edith Cowan University didn't just see a prisoner, they saw a student. They provided institution-wide support that actually meant something. Lecturers were allocated extra time per unit so I could call them for one-on-one sessions. Mentors drove out to the prison to visit me, and my father became my own personal research assistant, hunting down my journal articles that I couldn't access. Because the university understood my environment, they could accommodate my reality. In April this year, the man who once mentored me from a prison visit room co-authored an academic paper with me. We grab coffee when I'm off swing from the mines. That is the difference between a gate that stays closed and a bridge that leads somewhere. I've been out for 16 months now. I'm actually still, I'm actually still on parole. I had to get special permission to leave the state and stand here today to talk to you all. And while I'm proud of what I've achieved, I'm not the only one who's used education in prison to transform their lives. Firstly, there's the Caribbean Bleds. 3 young First Nations men I know went through a mining program inside. They're all working still. Today, one just got married the other week and had a baby. Another's just bought his first home. These are lives transformed. But that program has 24 places per year in a WA prison population of over 3,000 Indigenous men. It's a pathetic little drop in the ocean. Then there's the specialist nurse, a woman I know who started her degree while incarcerated. Today, she has a master's, a specialist career, and a community that respects her and admires her work. Another friend of mine knocked out a diploma of health and safety while inside. Helped him get his foot in the door where I work. He started as a rigger. And last week, he interviewed for a spot on our corporate safety team. Every one of us is living proof of the psychological shift that happens when you trade a criminal identity for a professional one. But here is the reality. Right now, these stories are the exception because the system makes them difficult. It's time we move past these token programs and bullshit photo opportunities. Let's talk about how we make these success stories the norm, not the miracle. Now, I've spent 11 and a half years in the system. In that time, I've seen so many people get a certificate too in laundry operations. Hey, shame. But do you know how many people I've seen get a job with that? 0. It's time to stop all these bullshit photo ops and unrealistic qualifications and build a model that actually works. Firstly, legislate the right to learn. We need Commonwealth law that treats rehabilitation as a requirement, not a luxury. That means education centres stay open even when staff are low, period. No more administrative convenience shutdowns. Secondly, stop counting bums on seats. The Productivity Commission, the government's measurement of KPIs and whatnot, currently measures success by how many people are enrolled. It's a hollow metric. We need to measure outcomes. Did they finish? Did they get a job? Are they still in the community? Is the course actually relevant to the 2026 job market? Thirdly, we need to be like Norway and offer a reintegration guarantee. We need to move from support to this guarantee. That means continuity of care with housing, healthcare and employment the moment that gate opens. It sounds expensive, but for instance, if we drop Queensland reoffending rate by just 10%, we save $180 million a year. This isn't a cost. It's a justice reinvestment. Excuse me, I need my emotional support monster. Finally, we need to bridge the digital gap in prisons safely. I understand the inherent risks of internet in prison, but they're manageable. We can provide supervised access in small groups, 12 students at a time, with blacklisted sites and full transparency. If it works in the ACT and overseas, there's no excuse for the rest of Australia to be in the dark ages. But we don't need to copy Norway. We need an Australian model that respects our culture and addresses the disadvantages of our First Nations peoples. We just need the courage to stop punishing the past, some real effective political leadership, and to start investing in the mantra of the future neighbour. Yeah. We have a choice to make. We can continue to fund a $6.8 billion revolving door that treats people as outcasts and wonders why they come back. or we can recognise that every person behind those walls is someone's future neighbour. I'm a qualified project manager. I'm a published academic. I'm on a leadership pathway in the mining construction industry. 16 months ago, I was just another bare bum in the prison shower. The only difference between then and now is I was given a book instead of just a lock. Don't let my story be a fluke. Don't let the success of my friends be a token photo opportunity and a feel-good story. Let's build a system that values human potential over administrative convenience. Let's stop building better prisons and start building better neighbours. Thank you for your time. We'll go with you first.
Thanks for that rockstar preso, mate. Should have been on the keynote instead of at the end of the day. So, twofold question. What was it like your first few weeks out, and did you actually have any reintegration support?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. No, is the summary answer. I was given 2 all-day multi-riders, the bus passes, basically, by a service provider. They're here today. I'm not afraid to name and shame. Wangening, despite being identified as a critical care person on release. I actually had my Holden Statesman. I poured tens of thousands into it. I sold that for a steal when I got out. Stayed at a motel for a week. There was a prostitute living underneath me. It was a horrible place. Had my job interview 3rd day I was out. Now it started 2 weeks after I was out, up on the mines. They were really great. I'd had that organised from a friend while I was inside. So my employer, I can't thank them more for that. Yeah. Thank you. Question?
Yes.
Wonderful presentation, brother. You're dreaming if you think that I'm hitting you with the question that we talked about before. That was a wonderful presentation, and I've got so. Look, I guess we have similar story, but just sort of recently released, and the education, and turning into a professional and all of that stuff. I really resonated with your presentation. Thank you so much. I guess the things that I'm wrapping my brain around is that we can't wait for the system to change to better us. We have to do it ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that's exactly what you did. We did talk about the question, and I guess it is important because about how you were treated by the powers that be in there. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that turn the key. They're the ones that give you access. They're the ones that can make it an easy ride or a hard ride. Yeah. But the culture of prison officers in prisons is something that it boggles my mind, and I like to think I'm a partly intelligent person, but it's something that I don't know if it could ever be penetrated. So how was your experience with them while you're in there?
Funnily enough, there was a lot of support once I was seen to be doing the right thing. There were some really bad actors then in that mix. I'd only describe them as emotional sadists. They deliberately would go out of their way and get off, and not just with me, with other prisoners. And one actually lost their position, superintendent position over it. My dad went to the local member. But there are some supportive staff in there, and a lot have started to make an effort, especially outside of the private prison space, to break down that us versus them, in WA anyway, and especially in the minimum securities. Yeah.
So thank you for your presentation. My question is, were you in private and public prisons, and how would you compare your experience between the two?
Sure. I touched on that just briefly then with the cultures, but I think one of the biggest things in private prisons, when I was in a Serco-run prison, I managed to get a hold of their service agreement and cross-referenced that with the WA guidelines for what should be going on, as well as actually fact-checking where they're doing this. I ended up with a 10-page typed letter to send to the Department of Corrective Services of failures across both. I really think private prisons are not the way to go, especially when they run on hollow metrics that are effectively just warehousing us, a practice that should be outlawed. I think everyone here will agree. So bring back public prisons. Nicole?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, Chi here, Global Freedom Scholars National Lead, and yeah, thanks for your presentation. You've really covered a lot of stuff that I can't believe we haven't met before. Yeah, we just had an education not incarceration convening in April, and I would have really loved to have your contributions to this policy brief that we wrote that was covering a lot of challenges, and you have covered a lot of them today, and thank you for acknowledging, you know, the difference was like opportunities, and you seem to have a great sense of agency. So I think you covered a lot of stuff today, but I'd like to know like how you overcome some of the barriers, because we recognised a lot of the barriers, same barriers that you had, you know, like the organisational culture, education is considered as a privilege, not a right, when it actually is a right.
The resourcing.
Yeah, and 16 hours on a computer, dude, that's like
We were
unheard of. Yeah.
There were weeks when our education centre was open 1 day a week, and that's not just once or twice, that was multiple times in a year.
Yeah, and so those operational requirements, do you know what I mean? And like, I don't know, in a Queensland women's prison, you've got to fit all your stuff into this like, not even 1 by 50 centimetre box, you know? So even having all those printouts and stuff wouldn't be allowed. And I just, yeah, thank you for acknowledging the fact that not everybody has that agency and opportunity, and you know, the differences, the diversity of people trying to study in prison. So
Definitely helped build my resilience.
yeah, definitely. Good on you, bro.
Do we have time for any more?
It's sort of up to the group.
Sure.
All you're cutting into now is afternoon tea. So
Oh.
I reckon we
Food or questions?
I reckon if you want to leave, clap and leave, but actually just everyone wants to listen, and it's about 4 more questions.
Yeah, I'm happy.
So if there's consensus, have it all stay.
Cool.
Yeah, hi Aaron, I'm Joy, I'm from McCord West in Bunbury. We are a reintegration service provider. I'm actually really curious as to how you actually managed to get into your courses that you were able to get into, and what that process looked like, because I've tried to support my clients to get into something beyond a Cert 2 and have been told it's not available as part of the prison curriculum.
Lucky for me, I was a quarter of the...
Interrupt and let everyone clap, because I think there is some people who are dying for after.
Yeah, no, go for it.
And then people don't feel bad about leaving. And everyone else is like really engaged. Stay.
Yeah, no, I think what helped me a lot, I was a quarter of the way through my degree when I applied to finish it in prison. They then wanted me to do a uni ready course. My argument was then obviously that I am ready, I'm at uni. So it took a lot of letters to commissioners and ministers, a lot of kicking and screaming. Yeah, so no, it's not an easy journey, but this is where the policy changes, the right to learn needs to come into effect, so that there can be more people like us that come out better than worse. I actually have a little, what's the word, an analogy. I like to compare prisons to hospitals and other government institutions, and say you go into a hospital with a stubbed toe and you come out with a terminal illness. That's basically what our prisons are.
Hey mate, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Very similar to you, I got my degree at a government prison in Victoria back in 2005 in criminology and criminal justice. So, thank you. It was a mate who gave me a computer, but it was taken off me because it used to get searched for porn all the time. So it was a tough break. I had prisoners who bought my books and stuff like that. I had access to a university in South Australia. But I guess where I'm heading is that for me to do that back in 2004, I had to call on an amazing sense of resilience that I didn't know that I actually had.
Yeah.
It was just this I refused to quit attitude once I got going, and the other guys supported me, mainly the white collars and a few officers and a couple of teachers.
Yeah.
But I don't know much about where you're from, but I'm curious, like, what do you think, where did your resilience come from?
I'm a stubborn prick and I like to prove people wrong. I think that's where a lot of it comes from. But I think what's becoming increasingly difficult is so much of our content is becoming online only, which is where you would have been out of a textbook and whatnot, and I was sort of in that transition phase. But now so much of the university content is coming online only or in classroom only, and that's going to make the struggle even more difficult unless something isn't legislated.
I'm hoping one of the members or something with Open Learning Australia, they've actually got a background like us, so I think there's
there are
stuff
some
there.
small programs, but I just don't think they're rolled out enough nationally.
Good work, mate.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Aaron, and hope you all will join me in thanking Aaron for this wonderful presentation.
Coming back to the hall, if you've got more questions.
Catch him out outside. Unfortunately, I've been told that this room has to turn into a plenary room in 20 minutes, so we do actually have to leave.